If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Weeding is never a fun job to do in the garden. That was one of the reasons why we converted our 1,800 square foot in-ground garden to about a 400 to 450 square foot raised bed and grow bag garden. So I want to do a comparison to where we sit right now, mid to late August, of what the weeds are doing. Now we've got 5 beds here. We'll just briefly go over the beds that we have, and then we'll look at where we've got some Brussels sprouts in the regular garden and how intense the weeds are there. This was potatoes here. We put in bush beans. There's shallots there. This has not been weeded. This is natural come up of weeds over the course of the growing season. We've never come in and weeded. We haven't had the opportunity to, so we left it. This bed here, we've got irrigation on all these beds. We do have some taller weeds here. A minimal amount of weeds in that bed. Now we look at the bush bean bed. The intensity of the beans have greatly reduced the amount of weeds in which we're dealing with. We have a couple of weeds here, some foxtail, a few thistles in and there, not many. It's really shaded it out, and that's part of the benefit of the intensive gardening, is to create a barrier of sunlight from getting to the soil. You're holding the moisture in, and you're reducing the amount of weeds that can germinate. This pepper bed, a little different of a story. We got a lot of grasses growing in this bed. Again, not been weeded. We did mulch on this in with some straw, and we didn't mulch on that in because we didn't have the mulch available at the time. We never got back to it. Our tomato bed, we've got 30 tomatoes in the bed. We mulched it heavy with leaves in which we had left over from last year, and it has worked very well. Now, with these 2 beds here, and partially the bean bed early on, we never put cardboard down to prevent any additional weeds from growing up. We did have thistles pop up, and we did spray with a horticultural grade vinegar weed killer, and that zapped them back. We had to do a top burn, and then we had to reapply again. That's the instructions, because vinegar is not a glyphosate, which goes directly to the roots and kills it from the root system. But we sprayed it 2, sometimes 3 times, stressed the plant enough that it didn't come back. So we've eliminated that problem. But this is what it looks like, unedited, unfinished, unweeded, to show you what it's looking like right now. Now, what is the contributing factor to the weeds in the raised bed? Because it's always said, you build raised beds, you don't have any weeds. Well, that's kind of a myth. You do have weeds that come in from the air. That's how they naturally propagate. You have them from birds, from us bringing in, as well as the soil is not 100%, no matter where you get it, unless it's soilless mix. It's going to have some remnants of seeds. And then, like the thistles, have popped up from the native soil. So there is a minimal amount of weeds in these beds. And I'll show you how easy it is to remove these weeds compared to the ground. Now, these are all irrigation, but just pull them right out, put them right in the compost pile, shake the dirt off, and it's really a very quick, and if we kept up on this, we wouldn't have any weeds at all. So now, and I got a leak there that we threw in real late. So now let's go over to the regular ground garden and show the difference of what we have compared to the raised beds at this time of year. Now, directly in front of me is our in-ground Brussels sprout patch. We planted it in the ground because we've always had really good success with Brussels sprouts, regardless of what year it was or where we had put them in the physical ground. You can see we have an intensity of morning glories, which I'm not sure where those came from, foxtails, and in the midst of it, there are Brussels sprouts. Now, when you try, and the thistles, and when you try to weed, because the soil, there is an irrigation system in here, a drip line, but whenever you try to weed these, because it's not as friendly to remove the roots and everything into it. Now, this has been hacked off once with the weed whacker just to kind of control a little bit, and that is why you see a lot of early on you see a lot of these plants here going to seed, because they're stressed because they were top cut. But anyway, you can see the difference. Now, in years past, as well as we did with this bed, this is about a 3.5 foot by 8 foot bed. Went in here with a garden fork, intensely turned the soil over, removing the weeds early in the spring in all the roots that I could find, because that's where these weeds will regrow. And you can see it shows that it appears that I had done nothing to that. So in our opinion, raised beds, and it's an investment up front, but it's an investment that will pay you back years and years with good compost that you've added to it, good produce you're getting from it, and the minimum amount of weeds and the time that you have to spend weeding. If we would kept up on that 5 minutes a week or 5 minutes every couple of days, we would have no weeds up there at all. In the springtime, I would spend hours and days weeding each one of our former raised or particular in-ground beds to show nothing at this point of the year, and the crops would suffer because of the intensity of weeds, and we just couldn't keep up on it. So it also depends on the amount of time and the effort you want to put into it. But we find with the raised beds, yeah, if we add more time and focus more time for that particular area, the crops would be better. But it's something that now we can manage with everything else going on in our lives. Thanks for watching. Remember to rate, subscribe, and comment.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.